Big moves are happening in the stock market today. We've got major earnings, critical economic data dropping, and a big decision from the Fed that could shake up everything. And if you're not paying attention, you can miss out on some game changing opportunities, or worse, get caught on the wrong side of a major sell off. In the next few minutes, I'll break down exactly what you need to know for the market today and tomorrow, which stocks are set to pop, which sectors to avoid, and how to position yourself to win in this volatile environment. This could be the difference between making smart moves or watching your portfolio take a hit. Now, let's get into it. So first off, we're going to start off on the heat map. So this is the heat map for today. So far, we're looking pretty red, especially in the tech sector. With that being said, we do got some things like McDonald's, ExxonMobil, other stocks up. We do got some news with Tesla that might bring it up. We did see Tesla kind of hit a bottom a little bit today with the recent sell-off we had at market open. And we got some other things too. NVIDIA is kind of coming back a little bit. With that being said, we did get a big sell-off with SPY. You know, it was kind of coming up at first, and then it bounced off the 576.3 level, and then we bounced down below VWAP and then made a big move downwards, a few dollars, honestly, which is kind of insane. With that being said, we're going to talk about some other things too. But first off, the Chinese market is making a little bit of a rally to the upside. We can look at this one, and Baba. Alibaba is a good one to look at. I recommend looking at this one. I make a decent amount of money on some option plays, but with that being said, Alibaba is looking pretty decent for the short term upwards, and you can even see it come downwards if we see China start selling off. But Alibaba is a good play to make. I do recommend waiting to see how it reacts right now because we might have a little bit of a sell off, maybe feel a little bit of the gap downwards, and then play around with that 133 level. So you could probably play a little put option right now and then see how it reacts with that VWAP because it might meet VWAP at that 133 level. With that being said, do look at it to the upside and to the downside. I can't really guess what time you guys are watching this video, so look at the charts yourself. But you can play this stock both ways, honestly, and especially with the movements it make. One thing that I do notice about the stock is that it does have a big movement. So if it goes upwards, it's going to continue upwards. And if you see this day, it went downwards and it continued downwards a decent amount. So, you know, at market open, you might be able to play a play, you know, make a little bit of money. With that being said, the way that I trade, you know, let's look at the SPY, for instance, right? I noticed that it bounced off of here, didn't really go too much above VWAP. Then once it bounced below VWAP, I watched some of the other key levels and I got into my trade. And as you guys know from the other videos, I trade and I make 10%. That's it. I get out at 10%. I sell. I have like a limit sell. I also have a stop loss at 10% too, but normally it doesn't get hit. But with that being said, you know, it sold down and then I made my money. It literally moves like 50, 60 cents and you make your 10%. And I personally just look at movements and see how it reacts. And sometimes you get a big move downwards. I mean, I couldn't have guessed that it would have dropped this much, but I mean, even like a little move, like two big red candles, like right here, you could have probably made your 10% instantly. So with that being said, Baba is a decent one if you want to go for 10% trades because you can just scope out the initial move and then just kind of follow it. I haven't traded Baba in a while, but I just noticed that the Chinese stocks are up, and then Baba is one to look at, especially with their AI and some deals that they have. So keep Baba on your mind. But they are teaming up with BMW to boost AI for Chinese car market. So this deal can bring it up a lot because they're not only in China, they're not only in China now. Now they're going to like foreigners, you know, so keep that in mind. We got some key news with GameStop. They're kind of getting their own Bitcoin reserve, and it's going to kind of move like MSTR. You guys know what MSTR is. They're literally like a company that has, you know, tech stuff, but they recently, or not recently, but within the last year, they invested in Bitcoin and their stock has been rising a bunch. As you guys can see, it went all the way down from the levels of like $40, levels of like 130, and we seen it all the way up to that 500 level right when Bitcoin rallied up. So you might be able to see some big moves with GameStop, just like you've seen with this one. Maybe not instantly, but I think GameStop, I mean, we've seen it up at the levels of like 33 and then even higher levels. You know, a lot of people know about this, but you know, the $67 level. So you can buy shares. I personally have shares of GameStop at the $20 level. So I'm kind of pumped to see if we can move up higher, because I mean, you can make at least 3x at that $20 level. And you can play short-term plays too, especially playing it upwards because it is moving a decent amount. Another one is Dollar General. So basically their deal officially came out. So I forgot when it was, but they came out with this news that they're going to sell Family Dollar for like $1 billion. And then the news is official now. So you might see another move upwards and make a decent amount of money. But back then I played this play a little bit like when it was early news and I announced it in the video. And honestly, I think I think I put like $10 into an option and I made like 100. out of that one. So that one was insane. But with that being said, let's get into some news. So Bitcoin, XRP, and other crypto prices drop after getting a GameStop boost. So as I said before, they're gonna put Bitcoin in the reserve, and it's bringing crypto up. But crypto has been going up a decent amount. We have been seeing it move pretty decent. If we go back to the charts, look at Bitcoin, we're still pretty high. Like we're at the 86, but we are kind of looking a little bearish now. So we might come back down to like that 83. But if we can somehow get a little turnaround and maybe get to that $90,000 level, you can see MSTR, Coinbase. A lot of people want to get into Coinbase. Coinbase is a decent one, and we're at some lows. So I think if we could see Bitcoin come back to that 90 and then maybe even break that 100 soon, Coinbase, MSTR, and even if you guys are interested, there's an ETF that actually moves with Bitcoin. And it's called IBIT, and basically it moves basically exactly with Bitcoin. I mean, we've seen it all the way up to that $60 level. So keep this one on your mind and on your radar. But with that being said, down 25% from its peak is Palantir stock undervalued. So with that being said, we do see Palantir coming back too. So let's open up the charts, get the Palantir. So right now we're trading at that $95 level. We recently got down to that 71. I personally loaded up at 70, 78, and then 82. Just dollar cost averaged up. But with that being said, I think we can see it break that 100. And once we break that 100, we can start testing these levels like 107 and then get up to like that 124 level to that 125. So you might see this one high. I mean, I think this can be like 150 to a $200 stock in the future by the end of the year. But I do recommend having Palantir on your mind and on your radar. But it is a great stock, and especially with what they do with their businesses, and they got government contracts, it's just 100% profitability. So just keep this one on your mind. Another one, Tesla relaunches in Saudi Arabia with EVs, cybercab, and AI innovation. So this might bring the stock up a little bit. We have been seeing Tesla move a decent amount, but we did have a sell off as you guys seen, like with SPY, we did have a decent sell off earlier. But with that being said, we did kind of hit a bottom at like that 272 level, and then we bounced up. So we're kind of like testing VWAP. So if we can break above VWAP, might be able to get those levels upwards. I'm going to show you guys some supports and resistance later and some plays that you guys can make when we get to the charts, but just want to announce it with the news. So Microsoft takes on Alphabet with its AI advance. So basically, keep this in mind because Google stock might go down, or Alphabet, whatever you guys want to call it. But Microsoft has been climbing a decent amount and been looking pretty decent for a short-term trade and even for your long-term investment. So keep this one on your mind. With that being said, some other news. So we do have GameStop on the most active stocks added to it. We have NVIDIA, Tesla, EDR, Palantir. These stocks have been there for a couple of days, but GameStop is now moving a decent amount. We're up 14%. I think yesterday we were up like 9% after all the news. So we are still climbing. So keep GameStop on your mind and on your radar. But with that being said, I did want to talk a little bit more about GameStop with the news and everything like that. So honestly, man, I think with this Bitcoin, I mean, once they officially buy Bitcoin, it's going to start moving with Bitcoin. So you might see GameStop more volatile, and that's what everybody wants. And especially a lot of people got memories with GameStop, pushing up. So keep GameStop on your mind and on your radar, but they're adopting the policy to buy Bitcoin. So and joining other firms. So, and their profits weren't even that bad with their earnings. So I think GameStop is a decent stock to get into, and I do recommend having it. I have it in my long term, like I said before. It's just one of those that, I think this is one of those where you have it in your long term. My goals with GameStop was like, I got it at $20. So at that $20 mark, we were kind of bouncing a little bit, like 25, sometimes 28. And then this is a decent level. $30 level is a decent level to look at it because we kind of just stay on that $30 level. And if not, we might bounce down to like that 27 to 25. But honestly, I kind of just held it in my long term because if GameStop spikes up even to like that $40 to $50 level, I'm going to just sell it and then wait until it drops down. That was my initial goal. But now that they're into that crypto, it might go up even more. So kind of pretty pumped to see what happens with GameStop. And comment down below if you guys are invested in GameStop. But with that being said, Rivian spinoff also reveals it will make lightweight electric vehicles. So this might bring up their stock price, but honestly, they have been falling a decent amount. But with good news coming out, we might see Rivian come up even more. Exxon is investing $100 million to basically to produce cleaning alcohol for chip industry. So, I mean, they're kind of moving to the chip industry side. So Exxon originally is a good stock to invest in. I had this in my top 5 picks. If you guys didn't watch that video, you guys can if you want. But with that being said, Exxon is a great long-term stock to have. But with that being said, with them kind of going into like the kind of getting some of the money from the chip industry, this can be very, very great. So keep Exxon on your mind and on your radar, especially for a long term, but short term, it can move a decent amount. So, with that being said, some calendars. So, tomorrow is Thursday, the 27th. And this is kind of what this video is mainly for tomorrow, and also just for today, if you guys want to watch it, during your trade, But we got initial jobless claims, GDP. GDP is going to be decent, and then U.S. trade balance, retail inventories, wholesale inventories, pending home sales, and we got some people speaking. So keep this all on your mind. A lot of it is an hour before market open. We do got pending home sales at 10 a.m., which is like 30 minutes after market open. That might not move the market too much, but just keep that on your mind. With that being said, another thing with the Tesla, the Model Y is sold out in California. If you try to buy it, it's sold out. But what I noticed is that they also include the $7,500 tax credit. So I kind of thought they took that out. I wasn't doing that much research, but I noticed that on there. So that is kind of cool too, that you get a federal tax cut basically. With that being said, another thing, Model Y sold out and just people trying to stop Tesla. And then people are kind of just like, oh my God, like they were trying to stop them from selling the Model Y basically, and it just didn't work. But with that being said, EU could slap Meta with a $1 billion fine. And then Trump is kind of saying that they will retaliate, but it's not 100%. But I just wanted to show you guys for the fine because that might bring Meta down. And then GameStop adding Bitcoin as a treasury reserve asset. Sorry. And then Trump has said I'll likely be more lenient than reciprocal tariffs. So he might be more lenient, which is going to bring up the market sentiment overall. 23andMe. So I mentioned this news yesterday, but they're basically going bankrupt. But now they're trying to sell basically genetic data of more than 15 million customers. And the next one kind of shows that people are trying to delete their genetic data before it can be sold through a planned bankruptcy action. So their auction, sorry. So I mean, honestly, if you really think about this isn't really too bad because it's not like, I mean, you never know who they're really selling it to, but in general, they might just be trying to sell it to another company that does the same thing, which like finds your ancestors. But that being said, if this gets into the wrong hands, you don't want your data basically just given out, But President Trump economic policies are setting investors out of the U.S. stocks and into cash, bonds, gold, and European defense stocks. So we have been seeing a kind of a shift a little bit. Gold's at all-time highs, bonds are doing pretty decent, and then people are just selling their stocks and just having cash overall. So that kind of notices the stock dip. But with that being said, once we start going up, we might be going up even more because people are going to be putting their cash, selling their bonds, selling their gold, and then getting back into stocks. So keep that in mind. U.S. could adopt a tool to apply up to 50% tariffs on partners. So I don't know how true this is, but 50% tariffs is insane. And Russia to discuss energy ceasefire implement. I think we already have that ceasefire, but just want to include that. With that being said, let's get to some charts. So the overall SPY, honestly, man, we're dropping a decent amount, making a new low for the day. And honestly, a new low we're kind of bouncing. We might bounce on this line because 572.10. Oh, actually, you just see that bounce. But with that being said, 572.13 was a key level. We kind of look like we bounced below that. But the next level to look at is 571.7. If it can keep on coming down that 571 and then break that, our next level is at 571.3 and then 570.7. And then down below that is 569.5. And then honestly, man, I'm going to look at that 567.5, 566, and then that 565. But I don't think we'll bounce down that much. We are falling a decent amount though. But with that being said, back up to the upside, if we can get back up, I'll be looking at that 573. 573.5, and then that 573.9, and then next that 574.6, 574.25, 574.96, 575.3, 575.78, and then 573.33, and then that 577, and then that 580. With that being said, I'm sorry, there's a lot of price actions, but these are just like lines that it can bounce off of and go back down, and or it just shows a little bit of resistance where you can kind of get in. But keep that on your mind and on your radar. Next one is NVIDIA, because we were kind of testing that 120 and we kind of bounced above it a little bit. But honestly, we've been falling down a little bit more, and we do have some bad news. But basically, I think we might be able to see it maybe fall down even more, especially you see in tech sell off. So I think the next level is see how it reacts with that 114.46. And if we make a new low, 113, 112, 110.9, 109, and then that 108 level. Back up to the upside, I'll be looking at that 116.3, which is just VWAP right now, and then 117.8, 118.9, and then that 120 level. That's going to be a key level because if we can break above 120, get like 121 to 122, we will be looking a little bit more bullish with NVIDIA, but NVIDIA is kind of looking a little bit bearish. With that being said, Tesla kind of the same thing. I do want to see how it reacts to that 270 level. 270 is going to be key, but that's going to be a level for later. The levels to look at right now is 275, 272.5, and then that 270. And then if we break below that, 268, 265, and then hopefully we won't bounce out much lower. But to back up to the upside, 278, 280 is going to be a key level. Above 280, I'll be looking at that 283 and then that 285. And we can bounce above that 285. We could probably get 290. But 290 is going to be a hard one to beat too. But just see how it reacts, honestly. With that being said, Bitcoin, I'm not going to tell any levels. I think maybe 89,000 will be next and then 90,000. With that being said, MSTR, just see how Bitcoin moves. If we move up or down, just play it based on how you do it. But you could do some short-term trades like options, call, puts, whatever you want. So to the upside, I'll be looking at that 335, that 336, 339, 340, 341.8, 344, and then 350. And then to the downside, I'll be looking at 330, 328, 325.9, and then that 320. So keep that on your mind and on your radar. With that being said, man, we're looking okay, but we are going to, today might be just one of those red days. And then I think just see how it reacts with Thursday, because we have 2 red days in a row. We might start downward once again. Like I said before, we might honestly make newer lows. We just had a little bit of green in this bearish market. I'm not saying we're overall bearish, but I'm a short-term trader. So if I'm saying we're bearish, I mean we're bearish for like the day. I'm not saying that we're bearish overall. Long term, I think we're still bullish, but we just got to be a little bit patient. 100% the stocks are going to go up in the future, but we just don't know when this sell-off is going to end. So keep that in mind. But I think we might be able to make some more lows. With that being said, the week we still look pretty decent, except for NVIDIA. But NVIDIA, honestly, man, is off and on. With that being said, thanks for watching the video. Smash that like button, subscribe if you guys are new, and I will see you guys in the next video. Comment down below if you guys have any questions, and I'll see you guys later. Peace out.